Saudi Arabia will host an emergency summit on November 11, 2023, convening Arab and Islamic leaders to address the intensifying humanitarian crisis in Gaza. This summit, held under Saudi Arabia's leadership as the chair of the Arab League, will bring together representatives from both the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, aiming to formulate a unified regional response to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Before we proceed, please like, comment, and subscribe to help us with the YouTube algorithm. The situation in Gaza has reached a critical point, with thousands of casualties and extensive damage to infrastructure since the conflict reignited in early October. Arab and Muslim leaders, including Saudi Arabia, have condemned the extensive violence against Palestinians and are pressing for immediate international intervention to halt the fighting and provide humanitarian aid. The November 11th summit will be an important platform for these leaders to strategize on diplomatic measures that could potentially alleviate the suffering in Gaza and advocate for Palestinian rights. Saudi Arabia's decision to host this summit is significant, given its recent efforts to improve relations with Israel as part of a broader diplomatic normalization process, a shift that reflects evolving regional alliances. However, with the ongoing conflict in Gaza, Saudi Arabia has placed its focus back on the Palestinian cause, emphasizing solidarity with Palestinian civilians affected by the violence. The emergency summit indicates Riyadh's willingness to prioritize humanitarian and regional concerns, even if it complicates relations with Israel. Humanitarian conditions in Gaza have worsened sharply since the start of the recent hostilities, with reports of severe shortages in food, water, medical supplies, and shelter for displaced civilians. Health services are also under immense strain, with hospitals struggling to operate amid damage to infrastructure and limited resources. Saudi Arabia, alongside other Arab states, has called on the international community to facilitate immediate humanitarian relief, ensuring that aid reaches those most in need. The summit is expected to address these humanitarian concerns as a central topic, with member states likely to coordinate on relief efforts. Saudi Arabia and other Arab nations have previously donated substantial aid to Gaza, but current needs surpass prior contributions due to the scale of the crisis. The discussions may lead to collective pledges for financial assistance and logistical support to help alleviate the suffering in Gaza, including working with international organizations to ensure safe passage for aid convoys. Beyond humanitarian aid, the summit will likely explore diplomatic avenues to advocate for a ceasefire and bring about peace negotiations. While several Arab countries have established diplomatic relations with Israel in recent years, the Gaza conflict has intensified calls for a unified stance in defense of Palestinian rights. Saudi Arabia and other summit participants are expected to urge a halt to hostilities, emphasizing that sustainable peace can only be achieved through a resolution that addresses Palestinian aspirations for statehood and security. The emergency summit underscores the Arab League and OIC's role as platforms for collective action on regional issues, particularly when it comes to Palestinian advocacy. Historically, these organizations have been vocal in support of Palestine, but divisions within the Arab world have sometimes hindered unified responses. Saudi Arabia's leadership in convening this summit signals a renewed effort to consolidate a coherent regional approach to the Palestinian issue, potentially setting the stage for more cohesive actions. Furthermore, the summit could impact Saudi Arabia's foreign policy trajectory, as its support for Palestine contrasts with the recent normalization efforts with Israel. Riyadh's balancing act will be closely observed by other nations, as Saudi Arabia attempts to maintain its influence in the region while addressing both Palestinian concerns and the emerging diplomatic landscape. This balancing act reflects the complexity of regional politics, where historical alliances and new partnerships must be carefully managed to avoid undermining either side. In addition to discussing Gaza, the summit may address broader regional issues, including tensions with Israel that extend beyond Palestine. Recent Israeli actions in Lebanon, for example, have also raised concerns among Arab nations, with some leaders fearing that the conflict could further destabilize the region. These discussions may encourage a comprehensive approach, addressing not only the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, but also broader geopolitical issues affecting the Middle East. The outcome of the November 11th summit could have far-reaching implications for the future of Arab-Israeli relations and the regional stance on Palestine. If Arab and Muslim leaders succeed in formulating a strong, unified response, it may reinforce international pressure on Israel to reconsider its military actions and engage in negotiations. The summit's conclusions will likely be closely watched by global powers, who may play a role in facilitating or endorsing the proposed measures. Ultimately, this emergency summit represents a critical moment for the Arab and Muslim world to demonstrate solidarity with Palestine, as well as their ability to work collectively in response to urgent crises. With the participation of major Arab and Muslim leaders, the event holds the potential to influence the regional and international discourse on Gaza, reflecting both humanitarian priorities and the enduring commitment to Palestinian rights in the face of ongoing adversity.